here I am with the video that you've all been waiting for. Let's do some planning for 2026. I have my bullet journal here, which I won't be getting my new bullet journal until Christmas because I've asked for it as a present. However, I need to move this because of the sun. I do know that I can do some planning till then. So I wanted to talk more about the details of my slow buy because I know that's mainly what y'all want to talk about. So let's talk about it. If you watched last week's video, you would know that I'm planning a slow buy for 2026. So let's talk about what that even means. I briefly did in the last video, but let's get into a recap and then some more details about what I'm gonna be doing. So basically, I realized that the no buy was not great for some aspects of my life in terms of a little bit activating my scarcity mindset and kind of throwing my minimalism a little bit out the window, because if something was free, I immediately said yes to it instead of thinking about if I actually needed that thing or not, or if I was just saying yes because I wasn't allowed to buy anything. So that was not great. The low buy that I just did this year did its job for the most part, and I didn't purchase a crazy amount of things. However, the few extra things that I did purchase, I noticed were definitely impulse purchases. So I really just want to get a handle on any kind of impulse purchasing, and that's really the goal of this slow buy. That and using up the stuff that I already have. That's going to be a huge focus next year. So essentially the slow buy is just kind of helping me create rules for the future that make sense for my lifestyle, minimalism, frugality, all that kind of stuff. So in general, the concept of this slow buy, if you will, if you would also like to join me and learn a little bit more about it, it's still keeping the same kind of framework with the red light, yellow light, and green light list. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically just a framework that I came up with. I think I came up with it because I don't think I've seen it anywhere else. You have green light things, which are okay to buy no matter what. Yellow light list is take a pause, think about it, maybe consider other options, or wait before you purchase the item. Those are maybe things that would regularly be on your red light list, but there's maybe like one exception. This is like your liminal limbo space, and everyone's is a little bit different, so take that how you will. The red light list is absolutely not, under no circumstances will you be allowed to buy this at all. The end. So anyways, that's my red, yellow, green light system. Other than that, I'm going to be tracking what I'm buying every month, not necessarily in amounts, but every time that I buy something, if it's like a new category, I'm gonna write it down on a list. So it's like, okay, this month I spent money on groceries, toilet paper, replacements for my socks, and whatever else. Like, I just want a list of things that I am buying just so that I'm held accountable on a piece of paper of like, okay, well, if you're gonna buy it, you're gonna have to write it down. And if the list starts getting whatever, then you'll realize that you're purchasing things and you need to stop or slow down. But then the next thing is going to help with that, because I'm going to have a 1 month wait on anything that is not on my green light list. So I think that's really going to help me slow down my purchases without completely stopping me from making extra purchases at all. And I think for my brain, this will help stave off the scarcity mindset, and it will also give me a moment to see if I can rent the item, borrow the item, get it for free. This is the kind of thing that was happening during my no buy year that I really appreciated, to kind of just let my brain be creative about solutions instead of just immediately going to, oh, well, I'll just buy it to solve the problem, which is what most people do. And I was doing that before. The thing about the slow buy is that moving forward, this is definitely the framework in which I would really ideally like to live my life, where there are no such thing as impulse purchases, and I'm waiting every time that I want to buy something, because if something is really, truly, absolutely dire, I will get it. But other than that, nothing else is dire. Nothing else is that serious that I need to buy it in a certain amount of time. And if it is, then it's usually just preying on your FOMO and like limited edition, scarcity mindset, all that kind of stuff. And I really do not want to be a prisoner of that mindset anymore. And that is one of my biggest goals for this next year. So anyways, the red light list is going to be changing every single year. So that's one thing that will update every single year. And I guess everything else is basically just on the yellow light list, besides obviously the couple of things that are on the green light list. Hopefully this is making sense. This next year on my red light list so far, I have nail polish, new products, unless it is a direct replacement of some of my absolute favorites, which I think I have like 2 or 3 staple products, and other than that, everything else I don't really care about repurchasing. Yarn, because I have way too much of that, and actually most of it I have gotten for free. That might be one of those things that I'm not even allowed to accept free stuff of it anymore, because that's how much yarn I have and I just want to start using it. Piercings, not allowed to get. Stationery, I have plenty of stuff that I could use for cards, mail, everything. Like, I have what I need to have. Clothes, the thing about this is that I'm not allowed to buy any clothes, but I am allowed to make myself more clothes. And that is going to be the kick in the pants that I need to learn how to use my sewing machine, get better at knitting, knit myself sweaters, crochet myself tops, whatever. There may be a situation in which I need to find another pair of jeans or shorts, but I think we're gonna wait until we get to that bridge before we cross it and see what happens next year, because I could also try to sew myself a pair of shorts and or like a skirt or a skirt. I don't know. My size has fluctuated a lot since I've entered my 20s, and I feel like it's very difficult to keep a consistent wardrobe, especially with shorts. I feel like I can never find a pair of shorts that actually fit me. I have like one pair that I actually like, so we'll see. Tea. I have enough tea to last me throughout the rest of the year. The only tea that I'll allow myself to repurchase is Barry's Irish breakfast tea. Other than that, I have plenty and I don't need to buy any more. This is kind of going into the vein of doing a bit of a project pantry clean out situation, de-stashing of my yarn in terms of like stash busting projects, and then shoes. I literally just bought a pair of black boots, and that is the last pair of shoes that I needed to complete my collection of shoes for every situation that I find myself in. The only reason I would allow myself to buy a pair of shoes is if I was replacing my pair of everyday sneakers, but even then I feel like I could get by with just the shoes that I have, even if that pair kind of goes out the window, because I have my Blundstones. I now have a pair of Solivairs, which I'm very excited about. I got them used off of eBay, so hell yeah. And I have the pair of shoes that Vivaya sent me, the 2 pairs, and those sneakers, I actually use them all the time. There's actually definitely a chance that I might do another campaign with them at some time in the future, so if that happens, mind your business. I'm getting a pair of shoes for free. I'm not declining shoes if they come into my life, but I'm not going to be purchasing any with my own money next year. That's a promise. And I think right now, that's all I have on my red light list. I'm sure more things will come up, but basically everything else is in the yellow light list. And that's the difference between slow buy and a no buy, is that most of your focus during a no buy is kind of on the green and yellow light stuff, where those are the things you're focusing on, and everything else falls into the red light list. For a slow buy, you're basically focusing on the red and the green, and then everything else is falling into the yellow light list. So if you don't have a rule, it just means there's a 1 month waiting period sort of thing. And again, I'm going to be very heavily relying on the framework from Kate Flanders' book, The Year of Less. This is going to be my holy grail for the year, and any time that I want to purchase something that is not on the green light list, I'm going to be going through this checklist. And honestly, I feel like this is a really good way to live. This is a great thing to follow year round, all the time, for the rest of my life. So anyways, that's pretty much the update about the slow buy, besides the fact that I'm also really going to be focusing on debt payoff and savings, because in case you didn't know, Ray and I bought a car earlier this year, and it was a used car, so that has become a bit of a financial drain on us this year, unfortunately. But it's okay. We had our reasons for why we got a car. I don't regret it, but I learned a few things, and now I know what to do differently in the future, and that's fine. So yeah, I have some ideas on goals and things and some journal spreads. I want to go through the front of my journal and see what spreads I actually used and see how I can update my future journal. But I will get back to you in terms of my goals for 2026. some craft projects that I really want to do. So I'll see you back in a bit. Okay, before we completely lose all of the light, I would love to go through my journal. Like picture book style, let's go through this journal and figure out what we want to include for next year. This, the printed out view of the year, always a yes. Even though I pretty much never reference it, I like to have it in there. And then goals for the year. We will also be including this. In terms of goals for the year, I did okay. I focused a little bit harder on some of them versus other ones. Start learning Italian. I started. Did not follow through with that whatsoever. And machine sew, I've just given up. That's not going to be a thing that's going to happen this year. It's going to happen next year, and that's okay. My manifestation page, there is nothing here. That explains some things, but whatever. I just never ended up getting around to writing anything down. So whatever, I guess. The vision board, love this. Always will include this for sure. This one was not my favorite that I've made. It was okay, but I also made it really late in the year. So I would love to actually get this going in January, or even, dare I say, December. I still haven't updated this all the way, but the No Buy Book Club, this is a spread that will for sure be living on in the future because we do a book every month, and these last few have been a little tough. We've all kind of fallen off, not gonna lie. It's been a bit of a brain scrambly time for all of us on the server. We're all a bit overwhelmed. There's a lot of things going on. This, in theory, was a really cute idea, but it's just one of those things that I'm not really updating enough. So I'm very undecided as to whether or not I'm going to be moving this into my next journal or not, because as much as I love this idea, it's just not something that I actually use. And that kind of goes for this as well. The book bingo, for sure I could cross more of these out, but I just have not been looking at this one at all. And this is definitely good information to have. I just forget to update it. And also the whole NetGalley thing this year for me has totally fallen off the wagon. So maybe next year I can focus a little bit more. This is actually something that I want to expand upon in the next journal. So these were some of the projects that I was hoping to do. This, I actually am not gonna end up buying this exact pattern. I think I'm just going to knit a step-by-step sweater for Addie, and you know how you can embroider something on? I'm probably just gonna do that for this, just so that I don't have to use up 5,000 yards of yarn, because crochet takes up so much yarn. This is something that I wanted to do. This is something I started, still haven't finished. This I actually did finish. Actually, that's a lie. I have just to weave in the ends, so it's basically finished. The year in tea, I loved this. This whole little thing right here is so cute. 100%, 10 out of 10 would do again. My only regret is that I didn't have more tea, and that's okay because I have a couple from our trip to Italy. I have some tea from there, so that's really exciting. Yeah, we're doing okay. Could have done better, but that's okay. This is something that someone shared on the Discord, and I loved the idea. I think my goal for 2026 is a little bit more in the junk journaling side of things. I will talk about my other goals in a moment, but for my journal, junk journaling is definitely the way forward for me. A little bit more of that. Anyways, I guess that ends and then it just goes into January. And that was me just kind of talking out loud. I talked about my slow buy. What else am I going to talk about? Some goals that I have for next year. Okay. In general, I think the goals that I had this year were in the right place, heart-wise, but realistically, I wasn't doing that much to actually make these things happen. Start learning Italian, I started and then I fell off because for me, unfortunately, with a language, unless I'm using it all the time, it's very difficult for me to actually find any motivation to be studying it. So I feel like with Spanish, I could very easily incorporate more Spanish into my life by watching movies, listening to podcasts, and I'm definitely a lot better at Spanish than I am at any other language. Besides English, obviously. I took some tests online, and I think I'm about between an A1 and A2 level. So again, very basic, very basic. I feel like I can understand it better than I can actually speak it, and my vocabulary is genuinely not that big. But I would love to get to B2 level by the end of next year. Will it happen? I guess we'll find out together. The next thing on here is start learning how to machine sew. That is definitely going to be a goal that I'm going to move over to next year, and that is something that I want to focus on next year a lot. Okay, I have some tools and resources for that. Stay tuned for a little curriculum video, because I will be doing a curriculum for 2026, and that will have its own video, possibly video series, who knows. The next goal, start on your sourdough learning journey. Started and finished. That's a lie. I'm definitely not finished learning about sourdough because nobody's perfect and there's always more things to learn. But I feel confident making a loaf of sourdough now. I actually have one going right now as we speak. It's sitting on the counter being cute. So I feel really confident about that. In fact, I feel so delusionally confident that I feel as a beginner sourdough maker, I know enough to help out absolute beginners. And I really want to come out with a bake with me, talk you through how to do a sourdough loaf video next year at some point. Hopefully, as soon as I can get that together, I would love to do that. I just really want to come up with as many resources as I can and try to answer as many questions that I know that I had when I first started sourdough, and just kind of put it all together in a video and explain things as I go. I feel like that would be really helpful because I know a lot of people maybe want to get into sourdough. It's so intimidating when you first start out, but I swear to God, as soon as you start trying it, it starts making sense. So I really want to break down the barrier for some people if they're feeling nervous about it. Another one of my goals was spend more time crocheting and maybe learn how to knit. Babe, you did it! You did it! I didn't spend that much more time crocheting this year, but I have done a few projects and it's been fine. And I have learned how to knit, in fact. I only know the knit stitch so far. I don't know how to increase, decrease, purl, anything. But I started, so I checked that completely off the list. Focus back on minimalism. I would say I didn't do that great of a job of that this year because I didn't really do anything about minimalism this year besides declutter a couple of things. But I didn't acquire that many more new things this year. So honestly, I'm not going to say I failed at this one, but I'm not going to say I succeeded. And I'll just leave it at that. And then the last one is move your body in ways that feel good to you. Didn't do that as much as I would have perhaps liked, but I did do dance classes almost every single week for most of this year. So I would say in general, that's a win for sure. And it's so funny that at the bottom I said it's the year of living intentional and slow. And I feel like that's kind of just my life motto instead of just per year, but that is definitely going to be the vibes going into 2026. I guess that was just a recap of what I did this year. My goals are really similar for next year, if I'm being totally honest. I really want to learn how to machine sew. I really want to knit a sweater. I really want to get better at Spanish. I'm trying to think of anything else. Obviously trying to continue to move my body in ways that feel good. And I really, really want to use up as much stuff as I possibly can that I already own, so I can get my inventory of stuff to a place that I can manage, because next year is in fact likely going to be the year that Ray and I apply for his New Zealand visa, because we would have been living together for 5 years at that point, and I am a citizen, so we can get him his permanent residency. So that's really going to be the main thing that I'm going to be working on next year, kind of behind the scenes. But this is very exciting because it means that the move to New Zealand is coming up. Things are coming up. Obviously we're not moving next year or even the year after that likely, but I feel like the more things that I can take off my plate now versus closer to the move, the better I will feel, the less overwhelmed I will feel. In terms of the list of projects and things that I want to do in the crafting space, if you're still interested, if you're still watching, I really obviously want to knit a sweater, like I mentioned. The step-by-step sweater is going to be the first one that I do, and I will be vlogging my entire process of doing that. I really want to make a Sophie hood. I don't even know if it's gonna be ready by the time that I'll need to have to use it, but at least I'll have it for winter next year, I guess. I don't know. I really want to start it in January. In my ideal world, I want to start it in January, so we'll see. I have a mountain of Christmas presents that I need to get done first, so that's gonna be my number one priority. But what do I want to do? A sweater. Ideally the step-by-step sweater, but also the Olga sweater by Petite Knit. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with it. I can't decide if I want to do it as a sweater or a cardigan. My heart is leaning towards cardigan, even though I'm betting that that's more complicated. I've fallen into the trap of being so enamored by cardigans again. I used to be obsessed with them in high school, and now I'm like, wow, I need to make myself a cardigan, and I refuse to buy one. I refuse to buy one is the thing. So I have to knit it. I have to learn how to knit, and I have to knit myself a cardigan, because that's what you do when you do a slow buy. I don't know if I have the yarn for it though, so that will be a thing that we'll come to later on, if I even have the time or energy to do all that. I really want to sew myself a dress and a pair of pajama pants. I know that's so random, but I don't really have a pair of pajama pants. And again, if I have a sewing machine and a spare old bed sheet, why not make myself a pair of pajama pants? Because that's what a frugal bitch would do. I think in general, those are the main projects that I want to work on, besides also that sweater for my younger sibling. But again, I don't want to pressure myself too much. Feeling really good about all of that. Feeling super excited for next year. Feeling ready to be so creative and share all that with you guys. And in turn, while being so creative, being so frugal. Honestly, I want to use up the stuff that I have. I want to use up the bed sheets. I want to use up the yarn. I want to use up the pantry food. I want to use up anything that I have that I can use. I want to use it up, and I want to be fun and creative and cute, and I want to get a handle on the things that I own so I can start thinking about things that I want to send to New Zealand. We'll figure that all out. I just want to get my life in order. And also, Ray and I are going to get married next year, so that's a thing. I always forget about that because we're not doing a whole wedding. Speaking of, I actually bought the dress. My mom bought it for me, which is really, really sweet. I was going on this whole thing about trying to see if I could find one from the thrift store, but it just kind of ended up being so annoying, and then it forced me to go to the thrift store a bunch of times. And by a bunch of times, I mean like 2 or 3 times. But I'm just like, is this helpful for me, a person that is trying not to be an impulse purchaser, going to the thrift store all the time, and also usually not finding anything even remotely cute? Anyways, this dress is really, really sweet. Very plain, very simple, and I would be able to wear it again in the future. So it's not like one of those dresses that I'm spending $1 billion on and never wearing again. My mom's gifting it to me as a wedding present because we're not having a whole wedding, obviously. So yeah, I'm excited. It's really cute, and I already have the shoes, and I'm gonna see if I can DIY a tiny little veil or something. So that's another DIY that I'm gonna do, I guess, or theoretically going to the thrift store and buying something. So yeah, we'll see. I'll keep you updated on all that because there's nothing else that's gonna be having to do with my wedding, but I'll share photos and videos and stuff when we get photos and videos of things. You'll be updated. You guys, you know me. That's all though, I think. I know this video was kind of chaotic, but I kind of just needed to like brain vomit all of my thoughts about next year and just share them with you guys, and hopefully it wasn't boring. Hopefully you had fun while listening to me ramble, and hopefully you maybe got some ideas for yourself, or you've been starting to think about things that you want to start incorporating in your life next year, maybe some goals, some gentle things that you want to try out a bit more. I feel like for me, the best way to do it is just positive nudges in the right direction of things that I really want to accomplish, not any unrealistic goals, because I know that that's never gonna happen. One thing I would also really love to do more of next year is a bit more writing. I haven't really thought about that one too hard, so I'm gonna let Grace in the future think a little bit more about that, because it's got to do with the whole curriculum thing that I'm still kind of teasing out in my brain, and I will figure that out another time. That's future Grace's problem. So for now, I will see you in the next one. Until then, I'm sending you all my love because we're all just trying our best out here. So I'll see you really soon. There's gonna be more videos before the end of the year. So anyways, see you later. Bye.